Yeah, all right. We have just started recording, so time being 6:04, or 6:03, I'm gonna call the meeting of the Freetown Conservation Commission to order. Let the minutes reflect the members that are present and those that are attending by Zoom. Before we get started, I'll briefly read the governor's order. March 29th, 2023, Governor Healy signed into law an act relative to extending certain state of emergency accommodations, which among other things extends the expiration of the provisions pertaining to the open meeting law to March 31st, 2025. Specifically, this extension allows public bodies to continue holding meetings remotely without a quorum of the public body physically present at a meeting location, and to provide adequate alternative access to remote meetings. Specific information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public can be found on the Town of Freetown website, freetownma.gov. Okay. So, first item on our agenda, we have item number 1, and this is a continued public hearing. This is a notice of intent that was filed for 30 Island Road extension. So I will call that public hearing back to order. Victoria?
Yes.
Now's the time when you explain they contacted us and asked for a continuance.
Oh, okay. Their representative has contacted the conservation office and requested to be continued to July 10th.
Okay, did they do that in writing or just a phone call or?
Both.
Okay,
I spoke on the
perfect.
phone with them and they sent me an email.
Yeah, it's always good to make sure we get it in writing. That way there's no confusion. So that being said, for those members here, that's the proposal to rebuild a storm damaged stone pier on, and by say storm, I mean storms over the years, on Long Pond. They presented at one of our meetings, but I guess they're still doing engineering on it, so. The public hearing for 30 Island Road extension to July 10th, 2023, 6 o'clock here,
Oh, yes, COA.
COA and Zoom.
I'll make that motion.
I will second.
Thanks, Margaret. Motion being supported. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie says aye. Margaret.
Aye.
Margaret says aye. Kevin says aye. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 2, we have a request for determination of applicability. This is for work to be done on Quantapug Road. The applicant is Mr. Chuck Macumber, is the Town of Freetown Highway Surveyor. Representative is James Noyes from Greenman Peterson Inc. And the scope of work is pavement reclamation, slope stabilization, reconstruction of existing drainage ditch, and installation of granite curbing and guardrail. For those at home and you're watching on Zoom, will we be able to put those plans up on? Okay. And I would just politely ask for those at home in here that before you speak, you just state your name and who you are, what you're here to represent, and then we'll go from there. If you're not following along on the Zoom app, but you want to see these plans, you can go on the Town of Freetown website, freetownma.gov. Go to the boards and committees, Conservation Commission section. Click on that, you'll see current conservation filings. You can click on that and you can follow along, excuse me, with the PDFs that are on the town's website. So that being said, Mr. Noyes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, my name is Jim Noyes from Greenman Peterson, and on virtually is Sam Campbell, our environmental scientist from our office. We do actually have a brief presentation too that Sam's put together, if you don't.
Yeah.
That's possible to put that on.
Yep, whenever
Yeah,
he's
so-
ready.
Okay, yeah, this is Sam Campbell from GPI. Thanks, Jim, for introducing. Is it just okay if I share my screen?
Please.
Thank you. All right. So, are you able to see that PowerPoint slide?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Great. All right, Jim, I will jump to that first plan sheet for you.
Okay, actually, leave the first slide back, Sam, if you could. Okay, just briefly, this is the area that we're looking at. I met with Chuck last year out on the site. And basically the problem that he's having right now is the slope sliding into the cranberry bog, and actually it's starting to take part of the road with it. It's actually undermining. There's a
Oh, yeah.
stress crack on the road itself.
I can
It's
see that,
halfway
sure.
out. What happens is the whole thing would end up sliding into it. We've had problems with that. So that's basically the reason behind this whole project is that we are actually extending the limits around both that curve there to where the pine tree is in the background and on the other side too, on the other side of the curve. So it's basically the switchback where going to be pavement reclamation and reshaping the road.
Is that
So-
about 400 linear feet, somewhere
It's
around there?
about 700.
7, okay,
Yeah.
more, perfect.
Yeah. Doing a little bit of widening, but a lot of it's reshaping it. Right now, it's all country drainage. It'll
Mhm.
stay that way as country drainage. Sam, if you could go to the next slide. So on pretty much on the easterly side, that'll all be country drainage, still flowing off the road. And on the bog side, what we'll be doing is putting in, it's called slope paving, and don't let that confuse you because it's not paving. It's a MassDOT thing where it's just, it's stones, but basically about 2 or 3 cubic feet in diameter, larger stones. For some odd reason they call it slope paving, but we'll be doing slope paving on the side towards the cranberry bog. And in blue, you can see where we'll be relocating the ditch. We're pushing it out a little bit into the bog side. The very last slide we'll show you is pretty much the extent of the work on the bog itself.
And Jim, not to interrupt, but that bog is owned by the refuse district. doesn't
It is,
It
yeah,
is,
yeah, we've,
and my understanding is that they are appreciative of this effort by the town.
I know Chuck's met with them. I met with him. Actually, we met with the bog rock operator last week and he's basically he's happy, you know, because the ditch itself, and we'll show you the picture, is pretty much filled in from all the sediments in the road. Next slide, Sam. That's just going a little bit further around the corner and showing you the extent there. And again, everything will remain country drainage on that side of the road. Next. Just want to go through. Those are the cross sections at the bottom left corner. That would be on the north side right before you, as you're getting into the curve. It's just pavement reclamation. It's still banked on the inside as that water flows down there. You know, it'll continue that flow. As we get to the location where we need to do quite a bit of the slope stability, you can see the slope paving on that side with the new ditch in there. So the bottom of the ditch will be 3 feet wide, and actually it'll fill up. When they fill it up, it'll be about 6 feet wide and then spills out over in the cranberry bog. Next slide, Sam. And again, there's a detail on the bottom right of what we'll be doing. So on the street side, it'll flow off the side of the road. We'll have a guardrail now. Right now, there's just concrete posts and those are just hazardous, and actually they're leaning towards the bog. Everything's starting to fall in. So on that side, you know, just the flow will go off the road. It'll go into the stones, and any sand and sediment will get trapped within the stones and won't make it to the bottom of the ditch. And we carry that stone all the way into the bottom of the ditch. We need about 2 feet of stone anyways to act like a foot for the slope. So we just figured out we'll just do the whole 3 feet. And then, like I said, we met with the bog operator last week and discussed what we were doing, and he was thanking us because he was saying he'd have to rent a helicopter for $1,000 an hour to clean out that ditch, which is like, you know, astronomical. So he was on board with that. Sam, if you want to go through the environmental impact briefly.
Yeah, actually, Jim, I might just show the other photos first too. I think those might be helpful.
Yeah,
Um,
actually.
So that's the ditch channel. You can see there, it's become pretty shallow over the years, just through that sedimentation accumulating in there, and that you are seeing the beginnings of some sort of vegetation establishing in it. I think, Jim, you said that when you talked to the operator, typically this should be dry, but because of the sedimentation, it's damming up stormwater for longer than usual.
Yeah, it's not being able, it's not draining. He said it's dry, most of the, you know, spring, summer months until they flood the bogs. That ditch is dry.
So then again, just to reiterate, you know, you can see adjacent to this sort of guard post here that we've got significant erosion down the slope and adjacent to the edge of roadway here and here. And then finally, again, just another view of the channel. As you can see, it's been filled in pretty significantly. You can see some of the issues on the slope as well. And then this line of white flags was actually laid out there to indicate where the back of the constituted ditch is going to end up.
That'll be where they'll actually cut the bog, and then everything, the new ditch will be to the left of that line.
That makes sense.
Great. So as I'm sure you saw in the RDA that we submitted, we had the wetlands out here delineated by ECR consultants in December 2022. They picked up an intermittent stream on the west side of Quantapug Road, but we're not going to be impacting that at all. That's sort of outside of our limit of work. And then bordering vegetated wetlands associated with the cranberry bog itself. So those are depicted on the plans that you saw earlier. Our total area of alteration is 859 square feet of BVW, all associated with the work in the bog. So 550 square feet of that is just the result of excavating the ditch and reestablishing that channel. The other 309 square feet is as a result of that slope paving and the installation of the toe of the slope that Jim was talking about. As far as mitigation measures, as we discussed, that this is going to redefine an established bank for that ditch and improve the hydraulic connection both within the bog and to the intermittent stream that's down gradient of this. So you're not going to get that, nasty standing water in the bog. It's going to be dry for majority of the spring and summer like it's supposed to be. We'll resolve the existing slope issues. So you're resolving that erosion, stabilizing the slope and preventing this from happening in the future. And then we're going to install construction phase erosion and sedimentation control measures to ensure that all of our down gradient wetlands are protected during construction. That's wrong slide. Regulatory compliance. This work is considered just normal maintenance of agricultural land per 310 CMR 10.04, which allows for the cleaning, clearing, grading, repairing, dredging, or restoration of existing man-made or natural water management systems, such as irrigation systems, field ditches, and cross ditches, and 310 CMR 10.04. B13, which is the cultivation of cranberries, including the following practices, and it then refers back to the previous section about maintaining your drainage ditches. So this is normal agricultural maintenance that'll improve the conditions on the site, and I think is being seen as a huge plus for the operator of the bog. So with that, I think we'll turn it over to the commission for any questions.
Just Chuck's here, so this needs to get done ASAP, right? You weren't here, but they was talking about losing the road, right?
Last winter with the frost,
Mm-hmm.
was basically heaving that road towards the cranberry bog.
Yeah, it's no good.
No,
Road shouldn't move. Again, as we spoke, Chuck's been kind enough to, go over what's gonna be done, how they're gonna go about doing it, which is why I knew a little bit more about this project. So I do appreciate you taking the time to come in, give us the presentation, let the folks out there know what's going on. Does anybody have any questions from the board? Margaret, you all set?
I think I'm all set.
Excellent. Then, that being said, I will entertain a motion that we issue well, let me ask you this, Sam, what are you looking for on a determination? Are you looking for a positive?
So I think
Or
we would be
negative.
looking for a negative here, indicating that
That's,
the
I
commission.
figured that, and what gave me pause, right, Sam, was the fact that you are in fact touching a resource area, so you are altering and all. But it is considered normal maintenance work on the agricultural side of things, so I agree with your request, so I would gladly entertain a motion for a negative determination on this application.
So moved.
I need a second,
I'll
Margaret.
second. I'll
Perfect.
second.
Thank you. Motion made, support. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie says aye. Margaret French.
Aye.
Margaret says aye. Kevin Demara says aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Sam. Thank you very much. Chuck, thank you. Chuck, just out of curiosity, is this a bid job or are you guys doing it yourself?
no, good job.
When do you anticipate?
Bids are out now.
Yeah.
We're opening bids.
End of June 29th.
Oh, okay.
So hopefully,
Take care of it this year with chapter 90 money and then,
hope to have it done before September, before school starts,
excellent.
in a perfect world.
Yeah, sure.
We've got 10 pre-approved contractors for the plan, so.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is really a lot, probably about twice as much as we normally.
Good sized job,
Yeah,
especially for a local company,
Yeah.
keep you guys around and gals around, for a while.
Yeah, we combine this with Kelly Road too. So
Mhm.
we'll be doing this actually in excess on Quanapog. Claim, Kelly Road, Kelly Drive. we need to
Excuse
set
me,
that
Kelly
low
Drive.
point.
Yep.
We're getting rid of that low point. So we're gonna bring the reclaim excess over Quanapog to Kelly Drive.
See that? Who says we don't try to work hard to save money around here?
Yeah.
Well, good job. All right,
All right,
if you guys need anything else, let us know.
Alrighty.
All right, next on our agenda, we have item number 3. It's request for determination of applicability. This is for 8 Highland Ridge Road. The applicant is Deb Baker. The owner is John Maderis and Mary Maderis. And the heirs, representatives, either consulting engineers and scope of work as a septic system upgrade. There it is. If you would, please.
Sure. Good evening. For the record, Niall Zager from Zenith Consulting Engineers. So what we have before you is a 3-bedroom, single-family home, which has a failed septic system. And as you can see, it's a fairly small lot. It's only about 30,000 square foot lot. And there's a wetland to the north side of the property, the rear of the property. That you can see flagged as wetland 1 through wetland flag 8. Portion of it does fall off the property in the rear there. Basically what's forcing us within the 50 foot within the buffer zone is the fact that the well is in the front of the property. So it forces us in order to meet Title V requirement of 100 feet from that well. It forces us to put it in the back of the property. That is currently where the existing system is as well. The soils luckily were fairly decent, but the water table is very high, which you would suspect. So the proposal is to there's gonna have to be some vegetation removed. But the proposal is to add, put in some silt sock, clear the trees. Remove the existing septic system, put in a new 1,500 gallon 2-compartment H20 monolithic septic tank, 1,000 gallon H20 monolithic pump chamber, and Presby system. As you can see, the grade from the back of the house down to the wetland is fairly significant. There's about like a 5 or 6 foot elevation change. We are, in order to be able to build this system, we have to build that area up. Which you can kind of see by the contouring around the septic system, in order to be able to meet the groundwater separation that's required by Title V. Luckily, we were able to stay over 50 feet from the wetland with the septic system itself. We are staying outside the 25-foot buffer with all work. Like I said, we're going to be adding erosion control. I also provided a dewatering basin, which will probably be necessary during construction because it's obviously a fairly wet time, and being at wet site, it's probably going to be necessary. So we propose that on the north side. I'm sorry, excuse me, the south side of the septic system and to the right side of the home. Once the work is all done and completed and inspected by myself and as well as the Board of Health, all the work will be backfilled and loam and seeded and will be stabilized. And that's really about it. It's your standard septic system. There's no actual resource area impacts here. There's no flood zone. There's no riverfront riparian zone. It's just BVW, your buffer zone. So we feel as though this is obviously a benefit, and be happy to answer any questions that the commission has.
You have a liner.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
So
the
you-
liner, the liner helps. That's a good point. The liner helps to pull that grade further in. If not, that
Right.
grade would get pulled 10 feet in all directions further out. And
Because of
that,
the 15-foot.
because of the 15-foot breakout. So that would be, then we would be going within the 25-foot, we'd be getting much closer to that
Mhm.
wetland. So the liner is a huge benefit here.
It's pretty straightforward. I had the benefit of being out there when the perk test was done, and the material, to your point now, was good material. It's perkable material, but it's wet, right?
Yes.
So which can happen a lot here in Freetown. So we need to keep that separation, which is why it's raised up, as you said. Yeah, you're kind of stuck on septic systems, given the locations of wells, right? So appreciate the efforts you're going through to mitigate any more incursion. You are able to stay outside the 50-foot buffer, which is good
Yes.
on the field. It's ooh. This isn't Presby, is it?
It is a Presby.
It is, okay. Where do I? I don't.
Yeah, that Presby allows for a 40% reduction in
I
footprint.
was gonna
which
say
is-
footprint, so you're making it smaller too.
Yeah,
Okay.
so essentially, if it's 1,000 square foot typical conventional system, this
Mhm.
would be a 600 square foot.
Yeah.
That's not the case here, but just in general,
In
that's
general.
what the benefit of the Presby is.
Right.
Is it does allow for that significant increase, decrease.
And you no
in
longer
footprint.
need the overdig, the 5 foot overdig either on
The
that,
5 foot
right?
overdig is also eliminated.
So it
as
allows
well.
you to keep it more, small footprint, all
Exactly.
right, yep. Anybody from the board have any other questions? If
I'm all
not, then,
set.
excellent, I'll entertain a motion that we issue a negative determination number 3. I need that motion.
Okay, I wasn't sure we were done.
I apologize, I know, usually I drone on, but you all have heard me say it 1,000 times, negative determination number 3,
Motion made.
thank you.
I'll second.
Motion made, support, any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, roll call vote, Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie says aye, Margaret French.
Aye.
Margaret says aye, Kevin Demaris says aye, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, have a good night
Have a
now.
good night, everyone.
Have a good night.
Hey, I was approached. Middleborough Road. I think it's the corner of Claremont, maybe 94-54, somewhere around there. The installer wants to go to a second tank. I told him to reach out, it would be a change in the plan, but I told him I'm not doing anything unless the engineers and stuff sign off on it, so.
Okay,
I think Jamie worked on that.
okay.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks, yeah.
Good night.
You too.
You too.
All right, next on our agenda, we have an application. This is a notice of intent for 11 North Hillside Street. The applicant owner is Timothy Biddle. Excuse me, the representative is Richard Rayom of Prime Engineering. Scope of work is a dwelling addition with ancillary driveway. Do we have Mr. Rayom?
Yes, you
There
have.
he is. Rich, how are you,
Good.
sir?
Doing very well.
All right, it would appear that we have Mr. Biddle on too, so. Good evening.
Good
Dave.
evening.
So, good evening. So, again, Rich, if you could just state your name for the record?
Yeah, my name is Rich Rayom. I'm with Prime Engineering, Chief Engineer. And we prepared the plans of a proposed addition.
Do you have the ability to do screen share, or would you like us to put up the plan? Can we put up the plan?
I think it'd be better if you put it up, if that's possible.
Yeah, that's fine. Just so you can see it too, right? So you'll know
Yeah.
we're all on the same page. Good news is it's only one plan sheet.
Yeah, maybe I can. Oh, no, I can't.
No, we got it. We got it here. There it
Okay.
is.
Okay, yeah, okay, good. So there is an existing garage that is in the place where the addition is going. That is going to
Okay.
be demolished. And they're adding a family room against the existing dwelling and then a two-car garage. A driveway in the front. And to up at the top of the page, there's the edge of a salt marsh. Offsite is a salt marsh. This is fully developed lawn with an above-ground pool and a deck. We're proposing silt fencing to go around the proposed construction. We're proposing a driveway here. This is floodplain. So we're building the addition above the floodplain, a foot above. Providing for some storage underneath. It's only going to be 7-foot clearance underneath, so it's not habitable space. It's just for storing miscellaneous stuff. And that's it. We're not getting anywhere near the salt marsh. We're in the floodplain, but because it's ocean floodplain, we don't have to worry about compensatory storage.
Mhm.
And that's it.
Seems pretty straightforward, Rich.
Yeah.
Because I wear a couple hats, Rich, I start to look for things sometimes. What I don't see on here is the septic system.
Yeah, Clay, can you?
Septic is to the left of the structure, to the west.
Perfect. So on the other side, basically. Oh, there it is, existing septic vent pipe, got it, all right. Perfect. Okay. again, I'm familiar with this area. It's not too far from my house. It's down on the island, so I'm familiar. The area as described is exactly as, well, the area exists as it just described. It's currently a lawn and there isn't a garage there now. So you anticipate you're gonna have that grading. I see that you're gonna be doing that, and it's just, you're gonna blend that grading right into existing grade? Or
Right,
is that? Okay.
right. Yeah,
We're not
there's
putting-
an existing tree that has to come out, but there are some
Yep.
other trees off in the edge that we want to
You're
preserve.
gonna leave them, all right. Cause that was gonna be the next thing, if we're gonna be bringing it up to grade around trees, not to suffocate the tree roots, right? You wanna leave an area around those, so you would wanna leave that open a bit.
Right.
But since we're not gonna do that, then. Erosion control, pretty, like I said, it's pretty straightforward. Does anybody from the board have any questions?
I am good.
You are good, Margaret, you're good?
I'm all set.
Outstanding. All right, I'll have a couple questions. This is, we're not doing a full basement, right? Slab on grade?
Right, no, it's just, yeah, a vermin slab, because it's just
Yeah,
storage.
right. So you're gonna have your footings, you got, I'm thinking now about spoils, how much material are we gonna be bringing out? Where are we gonna keep it? Is it gonna be able to be taken off site that day? Typically, when we permitting work within a flood zone, granted, this isn't a velocity zone, but still, and I get it, you don't need to provide compensatory storage, but because it is a flood zone, during construction, we're gonna be concerned about, your construction materials, and more specifically, we're gonna be concerned about any kind of stockpiling of material, right? So any stockpiling of material that's to be brought on site needs to be protected within that area of siltation control,
Right,
all right? So that's gonna be a typical condition when we're working within the flood zone.
sure. We're not gonna haul any material off site. I think the material, we're taking about 3 feet of material out from under the addition, and we're gonna place
Right.
it immediately to the side of it. It can be done
Yeah.
all at
If
once.
if you can become a neutral site, that's the best for everybody. Right?
Right,
You don't have to haul it in, you're not paying to haul it out, that'll be good, so. All right, other than that, whatever stockpile material, whatever it is, needs to be done and kept protected within that siltation control area, so I don't have anything else. Doesn't sound like the rest of the board has anything else, so. That being said, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the plans as submitted with the condition that siltation control be provided for all spoils, piles, any materials that will be delivered to the site and held on site for more than 24 hours.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
that's fine.
I'll second.
Motion made and supported. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Roll call vote, Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie says aye. Margaret French.
Aye.
Margaret says aye. Kevin Demara says aye. Motion passes unanimously. All right, Mr.
Thank you
Biddle,
very
Mr. Rayum, thank you very much. We'll get these things signed and sent out to you in the next few days.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate
All
it.
right, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, all.
Thank you.
Yep, bye now. Next on our agenda, we have item number 5. This is discussion and take action relative to ratifying enforcement orders. We have one for 14 Washburn Road. And we have another one for 112 South Main Street. If you remember, these were enforcement orders that about approximately a month ago, maybe just over a month ago,
More than a month.
just over a month. We issued enforcement order, and part of those enforcement action was within 30 days, they need to contact our office and start a process. As of the end or our last meeting, we hadn't heard from either one. So we've issued new enforcement orders, is that correct? That reflects the need to file with us and refers to the previous enforcement order. In the meantime, we have been contacted by an engineering firm and plans have been dropped off, correct? For
14
14
Washburn, yep.
I was gonna say Mesa, it's 14 Washburn. Road.
Yep, I received the notice of intent this morning.
Okay. So it's my opinion that they have been responsive, although it took them a little bit of time, they are being responsive to this. I've also spoken to the architect on the plan, who knows what's going on. And so I think we're going to find compliance at the end of the day with this. 112 South Main Street. Unfortunately, we have not been contacted by anybody representing. He is, the gentleman's been into town hall on multiple occasions, but he is yet to file anything.
Sure.
So we, at the last meeting, we decided we were going to reissue an enforcement order to reinvigorate that conversation, so to speak.
Okay,
We haven't heard any.
excuse me, Kevin.
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
Is he still cutting or is he at least
No.
stopped?
No, all the activity, and that's a good question, Mark. All the activity has ceased, okay?
Okay, that's at
Um,
least good.
Yeah, yep. And an oral statement was made to me, it may have been in front of Victoria also at Town Hall on one of his visits, that all he wants to do is clean up the property so he can sell it. And I think I briefly explained that that's, everybody wants to do that. So just let's file and we'll be fine, right? So, last meeting, we decided to send them out again, just to, again, like I said, to remind these folks, with the idea that we would also record them. I think we're going to go through with recording the 112 South Main Street. Again, the 14 Mason Road has been responsive to that.
Washburn.
Washburn, I keep saying Mason, Washburn Road. Thank you, Victoria.
Does it matter that 14 Washburn is no longer there?
No. No. They still violated, in theory, they still violated the Wetlands Protection Act, so they still need to, they need to answer to that. Whether
Right.
they ever rebuild, I will
talking
just so
about
you
their new
know, right?
fi-
I'm sorry?
I was just talking about their new filings after their big fire.
Okay. You asked if it makes a difference. For us, it does not make a difference.
It
For
was
the
a joke.
conserva- Yeah, for the
It was a
Conservation
joke
Commission.
that it burnt down.
Oh, I apologize. Then I'm sorry. You're right. It did burn down and it was awful. And yes, we did ask ourselves that, what do we do now, right? But
Mhm.
I will tell you, Margaret, a couple few days later, we received a permit package from into the building department, that is, not to conservation, for a rebuild. So they're gonna move it slightly, they're gonna rebuild it, they need to change the location of a septic tank. And in fairness, I think there's been some conversation and discussion whether the variance is given for the septic will still be given. So there's some permitting that's going on, but they're doing it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, 112 South Main Street, we haven't got the response that I think we were hoping for. So today, myself, Victoria, and Charlie, and again, I invited Charlie to this conversation simply because I won't be around much longer. On the Conservation Commission, no, folks, you're not getting rid of me that way. Not that lucky yet. And Charlie, I'm assuming, will be part of the leadership team going forward. So we had a Zoom call with our attorney, as was requested at our last meeting, to discuss what do you do about enforcement. We've never really had somebody be unresponsive to enforcement action taken. The conversation basically centered around, this has to be well thought out, and we do it at a measured pace. All right, send the second enforcement action. We're going to follow that up, if the rest of the board is amenable, with a letter from town council that basically outlines our position, outlines the position that we believe the applicant is and what their responsibilities are. And then if they are unresponsive going forward, the potential liabilities that they will have. In talking with council, we were on the phone for about a half hour. It was a good conversation. They've dealt with this. They seem to be successful when you, rather than going right to daily fines and such, do more measured, give the applicant every opportunity to come into compliance. And that way, if we ever get to the point, we can either do daily fines, which again are onerous and can be tough to manage, or we could simply take them to court. So that will be explained in the letter that we send, again, with along with what we expect their responsibilities are when answering to the enforcement action. So I thought it was a good conversation. I think we got a better understanding going forward. I think it was helpful, Victoria and Charlie, to hear that. So I think we're gonna stay on that path. Victoria, are we gonna send, or have we already sent the enforcement orders over to? So we've already sent the enforcement orders over to town council. I would anticipate within the next couple of days, once we give them the go-ahead that this is the direction, that we'll receive a letter. We can send that letter out to the group so everybody sees it. If there is anything that's glaring, a mistake that somebody sees in that, I would ask that you don't reply all, that you simply email directly or call Victoria directly, let her know that you have an issue, and she'll see if she can't work it out with council. That way it avoids any kind of open meeting law conflict or anything like that. So that brings us up to speed on the two enforcement issues. Does anybody have any questions on those? Okay. Next on our agenda, we have item number 6. That's,
You don't need a motion to send the letter. Send the letter out.
I can certainly ask for a motion. I'll entertain a motion to send a letter out from council based on council's own advice to help with this enforcement for 112 South Main Street.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Sean.
I'll second.
Thank you, Margaret. So motion's made and supported. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Roll call. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie says aye. Margaret.
Aye.
French says aye. Kevin DeMaris says aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Victoria. Item number 6. Oh, my baby. Reappoint Mark Roca to gatekeeper effective 7/01. Oh, I'm sorry, 7/1/2024 to 6/30/2024.
Make that motion.
I would just to confirm for Matt the salary.
The selectmen are voting on that tonight, so I can't confirm. They have to vote on.
Okay, what is the salary that they're purporting?
I'm not sure. I requested exactly what the commission.
Okay.
So that's what's on their agenda.
All
for
right,
vote.
so long as it's understood that the salary will be what the selectmen vote to do tonight. Is that correct? Okay, so that's all. We have a motion on the table to reappoint Mr. Roca. Can I get a second?
Second.
Motion's made, supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Roll call. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie says aye. Margaret French.
Aye.
Margaret says aye. Kevin DeMaris says aye. Motion passes unanimously. You'll contact Mr. Roca, let him know.
Of course.
All right, thank you. Next, item number 7, we have minutes. A is May 8th, 2023, and B is June 1st, 2023. Got an opportunity. I don't have any issues. Margaret, have you had an opportunity to look at
I
these?
didn't have a chance to read them. I would assume they are just fine.
Okay, if you want, we can wait till the next meeting if it gives you a level of comfort. If not, you can take my word for it that I've reviewed them and I take no issue with them.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, Charlie?
I'll make the motion to accept the minutes as read.
All right, I need a second.
I'll second.
Motion made, supported. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie says aye. Margaret French.
Aye.
Margaret says aye. Kevin DeMaris says aye. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 8. We have any other business to properly come before the board? We have nothing else, right? I think we've tackled everything.
Mhm.
Perfect. Okay, that being said, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn from the Conservation Commission meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made, supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie says aye. Margaret French.
Aye.
Margaret says aye. Kevin DeMaris says aye. Motion passes unanimously. All right, next we have, is this on the same, for just clarification, this is all on the same Zoom?
Yes.
Perfect. So we don't have to log out and log back in.
Nope.
Outstanding. All right, time being 6:43. I will call the meeting of the Freetown Soil Board to order. Let the minutes reflect the members that are present and those that are attending on Zoom. You have a copy of the agenda, please?
I don't have them printed. I can pull it
We'll
up.
just pull it right up there. I think we only have one item on the agenda tonight.
Okay.
Here we go. So we have proposed modifications, which I think is a bit 5.5 Bryant Street. Applicant owner is David Peterson, Cape Cod Aggregate. Scope of work is inclusion of an additional acreage to existing excavation area. We were approached by Cape Cod Aggregate, and I will say this, once they've received their permit, and I'll speak just from my personal experience, they've been a very good neighbor. That's not to say that there haven't been issues over time. They certainly seem to be relatively minor in nature, and they were always been addressed expediently and typically to our satisfaction. But more importantly, they've been a good neighbor, always been proactive and reactive to our requests on anything with the soil board. So Dave Peterson, I'm gonna follow up what your position, and I was just gonna say you were the general manager. Is that
Yeah, that's close enough.
close enough, right? I'm not hurting anybody else's feelings by giving. Yeah, what's in the title? It's what's more important is what's in the paycheck, right? I tell you, they can call me whatever they want, so long as the check clears. So I had an opportunity to meet with Dave Peterson and discuss this. And there was a real concern, I think, on Cape Cod Aggregates. They wanted to make sure that they whatever they did there relative to the additional work was in line with what we permitted before, and it was in accordance of how we've done things here. And so what I said to Mr. Peterson is that typically how the soil board has handled things is, we have an overall site. We permit basically the overall site for that type of activity. What does change over time would be the location within that site and the amount, the tipping fees and all. And so it's done more readily. So every year or multiple times during the year that they're moving to additional sites or within the locus of their overall lot, but just in a different location. When you reach a certain elevation and the material is no longer there, you simply move along. And so when looking at it in that light, granted CCA is on a scale that is bigger than most gravel operations, but the concept and the way we do things is the same. Just so everybody's clear, there was a conversation relative to how we proceeded on this. And when we went back and looked at how we've done things similar, AA Wilt and others over time, it's we approved the site. We ensure that setbacks are all met, which have been flagged off and marked off, as Mr. Peterson points out when we do our inspections. It's just they're at a point now where they simply have to move within that site. So it's always been the opinion of the soil board that does not rise to the level of a new public hearing. And Dave, I'm going to now ask you just simply for the record, state your name, who you work for. And then I'd like to get into just the idea that there's no changes in the overall what we're doing there. So if you could, please.
Sure, my name's Dave Peterson. I'm a vice president with Cape Cod Aggregates. And yes, Kevin, as we discussed, this proposal here is really just part of good quarry management. And I would agree with everything you've said, including that nothing about the operation is going to change. Nothing about the permit is going to change. Our operation, the amount of material that we're going to be excavating, our blasting frequency or size, everything is going to stay exactly as is. This is really just about, as I said, good quarry management and utilizing our site. It's no secret that getting permits to mine sand and gravel, to excavate rock is very hard. A huge need for it. Our economy right now and the building industry is very robust. And we feel pretty fortunate to be here in Freetown, to have a good collaboration with the town. We've got a good site here where our closest neighbor at the moment is about 15, almost 1,600 feet. We're entering our 16th year, and we will continue as the permit requires to do our reporting to the town. And to go back and look at all the blast reports from day one when we started to present, you know, we are still operating at well below the state allowed thresholds. And when I say that, I'm talking about 80% below the
Mhm.
state allowed thresholds. You're right, we're not perfect. Things do come up from time to time, as they do with any business. I think we have been very responsive and worked hard to mitigate any impacts that do arise or concerns that neighbors or the town have with what we're doing. I think what should be noted is that we are using virtually every square foot of space on this site. So by doing this, we're not adding any new areas to the site in terms of where we're working. It's just gonna change the topography of the site. All those areas in blue that you see are being worked or have been affected. You know, we're trying to square some areas off. We are, you know, we're still going to engage in our, you know, stormwater management program, our testing with the EPA, our testing with our wells that we provide to the town. You know, all those reports over the last 15 years have been good.
Mhm.
We have not encountered any issues. So, you know, we feel pretty confident that outside the gates and outside the fence of our operation, there's gonna be no additional impacts.
Yeah, I
whatsoever.
guess that was gonna be the question, Dave, that I was gonna add, and again, we talked about this. The fact of the matter, outside the gates, you are not going to notice a difference.
No.
What is happening today will happen tomorrow, will happen the day after.
Right, and I think what's also important to mention is that, you know, we have, over the course of probably the last 5 or so years, we've hit sort of a good stride with where we are. We've been presenting the town with a tipping fee check every year, somewhere in the order of $80,000 to $90,000 a year. That's not going to change either. We are not looking to increase business. We can't. I mean, we really feel like we're at capacity here. And so we're not looking to increase any truck traffic, hours of operation. We're not looking to sell more product per year than what we currently sell. We turned away over the last 3 years, we've turned away a lot of business because we're trying hard to service the customer base we have, which is diverse.
Mhm.
And we've been engaged in some big local projects like the railroads. We work with both Skanska, DW White, and with Middlesex on sort of both ends of that project. You know, we've worked on cranberry bogs and schools and residential projects. We supply ready mix plants and local precast companies, as well as a lot of local contractors. So that part of our business isn't going to change, and we really are focused on supplying what we would consider our very loyal customer base. So we're trying, you know, everybody right now is concerned about stone. There is a real shortage of stone.
Yeah, if you can make some 3/4 to 1.5 double wash, that'd be great.
It's just very hard right now to meet demand.
Yeah.
And so our, you know, our strategy is not to go out and try to be the supplier for everybody. Our strategy is that we have this great customer base that we've had for a long time, and we're trying to supply those guys and keep them going. And we want to be able to keep them going, you know, for a long time. We've got a good spot here, and you know, we work very hard to make sure that we manage it and mitigate it the best we can. But, you know, we're just looking to sort of take, you know, another step forward in good land management and business management.
So I guess I went out of my way, right, at first to point out that there's been, and when I say these are smaller issues that will always get the attention, simple phone call to you or the plant, and they get the attention. And over 16 years would, you know, I don't know that you can count them on one hand. So I want to be clear to everybody. I wanted to go out of my way to say and just give a bit of praise to CCA simply because while most businesses try to do and want to do the right thing, and most of them are successful, we can, whether it's here in Freetown or anywhere, run into businesses where it's difficult. And so from a regulatory side, we certainly appreciate when a business at least is willing to work with us, sit down at the table, understand our concerns and be appreciative of that relationship. So I won't keep beating that dead horse, but I thought it was important to note that with CCA. So again, I asked that question. I'm glad you brought it up. People on the outside are not going to know anything different.
Right.
It's the same amount of trucks. And that's really, and again, we talked about this on multiple occasions, right? Is that if this was going to be an increase, if we're going to be bringing out twice as much or 50% more, if we're going to increase truck, if we were going to be doing a lot of that, then yeah, I would say there's an off-site impact that I think folks would want to have an opportunity to speak to. But if the idea is that we're not changing anything. So, that being said, what you're really asking us to do is basically just accept the fact that you are now increasing the footprint of the hole. Out wider, not deeper. We're going wider at this point in time. Well, you're continuing to go deeper. But you're doing that now. So we're not giving you, it's that you're going to go into the blue hashed area.
Right, I mean, we have flags
Mhm.
marked out that the board has seen before in their inspections, and we're basically just looking to move that.
And I think it was an aside that you mentioned during one of our conversations, that at the end of the day, once you get a certain amount of that work, that you would end up moving the plant and all probably down into the hole. Is that correct? Which again, we don't get many calls at all. But I could, just me and my naivete when it comes to running a gravel operation like that, I would assume that by getting it down there out of the wind, and it would help mitigate some of those things that you guys have to work hard to mitigate yourself, right?
Creates natural buffers and.
Yeah, natural buffers, whether it be for noise, whether it be for wind and dust, right? So,
Right.
all right, if does anybody else from the board have any other questions? No?
Well, I'll
Please.
say this one thing. Do we have to make a motion to extend, or is this something that?
Well, that's what so I was gonna basically ask that, do we, that I would entertain a motion that we basically give approval that they can continue to work on site in the same manner with the same conditions. It's just that they're extending the footprint.
Right.
That's it.
I'm just curious, in the past, have they had to have the motion?
So what I'm gonna tell you in the past, Charlie, my recollection is such is that we used to do these twice a year. We go out in the fall and we go out in the spring, right? In the springtime, this is what I'm planning on doing here. In the fall, it'd be like, oh, well, we got through that in early August and we went here, or we didn't quite do all. There really, it didn't rise to this level.
Mhm.
But I think Mr. Peterson, and again, credit where credit's due, CCA reached out to us.
Mhm.
I think if they were actually gonna follow or at least what was perceived protocol from years, they would have simply come in here next spring or whenever the renewal is and said, yeah, we took out this many and this is where we're at now. So I think and I think you guys operate down on the Cape too. So there's a certain level of scrutiny down there that you must suffer. So I think you bring that conscientiousness here, and which is why you initiated, you reached out, hey, I want to make sure we're doing this right. So again, I think a simple motion, just basically say we understand, we're in agreement with what your narrative and what you presented tonight. And that this is now going to be the future footprint, and your tipping fees and all will be based on the materials that you're going to be bringing, in addition to what you're already paid us.
Right, it doesn't obviously alter the board's ability to inspect, pull our permit,
Yeah, I mean, we'll try to get out there yearly like we have been. Sometimes it's hit or miss. Again, I keep referring to the COVID was difficult for everybody. You know, but I do remember prior to COVID, when it was a little bit of a different board, we'd get out there. We had good attendance at the last time we did a tour, got down there in the bottom of the quarry, really see what's going on there. So you're right, it doesn't remove our authority. It simply is a notification that this is what we're doing, and we took it to this level simply because CCA, its scale, the attention that it had gotten when you folks first applied, and scrutiny and the conditions and all that we put on it. So now I think, Charlie, a simple motion that we basically accept that this is a representation of where you're going to be moving along. Yeah.
And if I could, you know,
Please.
we established over a period of time, we worked hard to create our own unique set of conditions that apply, because this is a unique.
Yeah, and again,
situation and
thank you for
different,
pointing that out.
that,
yeah.
You know, that you've had in the past, which includes all of that testing and
Yeah.
reporting and, you know, quarterly, both quarterly and annual water testing and quarterly blast reports that we present to the board. I would say that, you know, we would be happy to, because, you know, we have to post a bond with the town. We post a bond on 24 acres. We would be happy to increase the bond to include this acreage. You know,
Again, and it's a fight. So you're going to need to do that if we're going to be working in addition to the bond. Again, that's part of the conditions of this, and that's, you know, which is why we need to get tip fees. Which is why we need this to see. Again, I'm speaking from experience where we've come in and they've been hand drawn. No ill intent, but it was just, I've been doing this a while now. So, you know, I'm just gonna take that knob down over yonder there, and it looks about, well, it's gonna be about 400 cubic feet or yards or whatever, and this is what we're gonna do. So this is a level, and I keep speaking of the conditions, and yes, CCA was a separate animal in that we have our standard conditions, but we went above and beyond. There is testing protocol, there's monitoring protocol, there's stuff that you had to do even before you could operate. So there's a confidence that I have, seeing how those conditions, when we put them in place 16 years ago or thereabouts, have been effective. And so again, thank you. So I'll entertain a motion that we approve this plan as the new plan of record representing the area to be excavated and materials to be removed, with the condition that you cannot move into that area until such time that a bond has been presented to the board. Thank you.
Second,
Thank you. Motion's made and supported. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Charlie Sullivan, roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie says aye. Margaret French.
aye.
Margaret says aye. Kevin Demara says aye. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Peterson, thank you very much. You still hiring over there?
we're always looking for good people.
Oh, well,
I have.
you and me are out, Steve. He said good people. We're out. And then if I'm not mistaken, we have just the minutes from all the soil board meetings. I'd like to get those approved tonight, please. And then we can move on like Donkey Kong. All right, maybe I'll get something to eat. What's cooking tonight, Steve? No food tonight? Why are you here and not over there?
I wanted to see how 112 South Main Street went.
Oh, how'd we do?
I don't know, I haven't really good about that.
Well, what would you, and again, this is a prior meeting, anybody's listening, we're talking about a meeting we just had, but what would make it good for you?
No, I was trying to figure out what could you do?
Oh, what can we
What
do?
can you do?
Great,
Okay,
good.
so
All right.
it can escalate to the point where I think Mass General Law would allow us, Steve, to fine up to $10,000 a day. So we are listening to town council. I will be, because it's a privileged conversation, I will go only so far. But this is the means and methods. Thank you, Mr. Peterson. These are the means and methods by which council has been successful with these things in getting compliance. So, but if you're asking what could we eventually do, daily fines of up to, I believe he said $10,000, and take them to Superior Court, did he say? I believe Superior Court. Yep. So that's what we can do. So we're doing it. There you go. Things take time. You'll learn, and if you haven't already, right, in your role on the planning board, that things oftentimes just take time.
Yeah, it seems like a long time.
Does. Yep. And then if you think this is long, wait till it gets to court. And then one little thing, and the judge says, well, we're gonna give him another 90 days, or we're gonna do, yeah, you just get used to it. You just have to keep plugging along because you know you're doing the right thing. So. All right, can I get a motion on the minutes? Can you put that up so I can read the minutes again, please? I forget the dates now. Thank you. So I have minutes from 11/19/2019, 10/26/2020, 12/20/21, and 12/05/2022. We need to do those minutes now. Because this would be, yeah, because we've had the third meeting, so we need to do those minutes now. So I'll entertain a motion that we approve the minutes as submitted.
I'll make that.
Thank you. I need a second, Margaret.
Second,
Motion
second,
made, support. Thank you. Motion made, support. And for discussion on the motion, hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie says aye. Margaret French.
aye.
Margaret says aye. Kevin Demara says aye. Motion passes unanimously. Any other business to properly come before the soil board? I can't think of anything. I don't have anything else. Charlie, you good, right? We're good on soil. Margaret, all right. That being said, I'll entertain everybody's favorite motion. We have a motion to adjourn from Charlie Sullivan. Can I get a second?
Second,
Motion made, supported. Any further discussion? Here none, all in favor, roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie says aye. Margaret French.
aye.
Margaret says aye. Kevin Demara says aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, folks. Margaret, we really do appreciate you making the time to run off the plane and get onto the Zoom call. So thank you.
Not a problem.
All right. You have a great night, Margaret. Thanks.
All right, night, everyone.
All right. Good
Good
night.
night.
Have a good night, Charlie. Thank you.